And welcome in to the second half of the Week 3 Countdown Show. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined as always by Matthew Vitale. Frankie Santiago is skipping today due to work again. But he was kind enough to give us his money picks and starts of the week. So we have those prepared to unleash on you viewing public at the end of the episode. So stay tuned for that. Before we dive into everything, just a reminder, as always, follow us on socials, F4P _ Ian the Spoon, and Frankie is Senpai Koala. The show Twitter is at the Fantasy 4-Pack. And make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that notification bell, share us with all of your friends, rivals, concerned fantasy football grandmothers.
Yeah,
the whole spectrum.
Yeah, if you don't like our takes, send us to your hated rival. If you think that our pickups or trade advice or anything like that's bad, then they'll make bad advice and you'll win. So either way, win-win.
Oh yeah. The more shares we get, the more information we can bring to you guys. So every little bit helps. That's the most impactful thing that you guys can do to help support the show. Let's do a little bit of news before we dive into everything. Justin Herbert to start Week 3 for the Chargers. Pretty excited for that. He looked great last week against the Chiefs. It seemed like he meant good things fantasy-wise for the offense. I was already in on several Chargers this week, but him being under center makes me more in.
Yeah, that's just the biggest oof situation right there, where they wanted to bench their rookie, let him learn, and then their doctor stabbed their starting quarterback.
Something tells me he's not their doctor anymore.
Yeah, probably not.
Honestly, that might be grounds for like a medical. I'm not a lawyer or anything. That might be grounds for like a medical mispractice suit. Like that's pretty bad. Just accidentally puncturing your patient's lung.
Yeah, it's not going to be great for him.
No, I mean he's out indefinitely. Doctors advise that he does not play with a punctured lung. So Justin Herbert to start Week 3, hopefully start beyond that too. He looked just better than Tyrod, so I'd like to see him out there for the foreseeable future, just so that way so Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Eckler and Kelly have increased fantasy value. Speaking of the other side of that game, word out of the Panthers the Panthers side of the ball is that Curtis Samuel is to be more involved in the game plan moving forward. They like what they see when they get the ball in his hand, and they haven't been doing it enough. And that's according to the offensive coordinator Joe Brady. So pretty reliable source. But one thing that I wouldn't be surprised if they did use him as, given how long they might be without Christian McCaffrey, is to use Curtis Samuel as a running back almost. A la Christian McCaffrey, where he can do a lot of work on the ground because he's quick, he's elusive, and then he's obviously a wide receiver, so he has great hands. So they can use him partially, at least, in that Christian McCaffrey role, catching heavily out of the backfield. So he's definitely someone with that news where I would advise people to go out and grab him because he's probably out there. He was dropped in most leagues, given Robbie Anderson's resurgence.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested now with that news. Probably not yet a start. He's a guy I'm going to at least hold to see what the team does with him.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
If this is just coach speak or not. But I would say the biggest impact for fantasy managers, especially for redraft, is temper your expectations for Mike Davis, because I could see a situation where this first week where they're trying out what this new look offense is going to be, we could see a lot of Mike Davis getting the short yardage stuff.
Sure.
So he might still get you a touchdown.
Maybe Mike Davis, the inside the 20s guy.
Yeah, he's the hammer to Curtis Samuel's between the 20s.
But we know that Curtis Samuel has explosive, game-breaking playability. He's someone who, if Curtis Samuel's getting even just 8 to 12 touches a game, I'm interested. Adams did not practice again today, so if you're a Devontae Adams owner, keep an eye on him. Make sure hopefully you listened to our waiver episode and you picked up Allen Lazard or MVS, because at this point he's trending down. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play this week. Obviously, the practice report on Friday is going to be telling, but he is someone that I'm watching closely if I have him on my roster. Sammy Watkins in the concussion protocol. This late in the week, I'd be shocked if he plays. I don't really think he's that big of a blow for fantasy owners, but you might have been relying on him for a flex spot. So, preemptively go out and grab someone, maybe a Curtis Samuel if you really need someone to fill in for him.
Mecole Hardman rising.
I actually did pick up Miko Hardman in a chunk of leagues this week wherever I could, because I don't think he needs a lot to try and sort of steal that secondary role. If Sammy Watkins misses a week or two with a concussion, he could sort of walk in, make some big plays, and not give the job back. Yep. Alshon Jeffrey logged a limited practice today. Looks like he's on track to be playing at least next week, maybe this week. With how just destroyed the Eagles are and how much better Carson Wentz looks when he has Alshon on the field, I'd be thrilled if they can get Alshon out there. I'm not starting him this week, though, no matter how bad my wide receiver core is. Unless he's literally the last one that I have, I'm not starting him this week if he plays, just because I want to see what he looks like. Is he fully healthy? Can he get it done still? But after this week, if he logs full practices next week, I'm willing to start him comfortably as a wide receiver 2 moving forward.
Yeah, honestly, I think that what we're going to see this game is if they roll him out at all, he's going to be super limited. He's going to be out there just to draw some coverage. He's going to be a decoy. He's going to be a decoy. He's probably going to get like 3 or 4 targets.
Kittle limited again. At this point, you're going to have to be watching for practice reports. Tomorrow, I know Kittle is very vocal about wanting to get back on the field. It wouldn't shock me if he plays this week. I still don't want to start him, even if he gets out there. You probably have to if he plays, just because he's George Kittle. But I'm hoping that Kittle just takes this week off, lets that knee recover a little bit more, and we can see him back out there in week 4. As we mentioned on our waiver show, if Kittle doesn't play, Jordan Reed's a fantastic start, so keep an eye on that also if you need a tight end streamer, because Jordan Reed is likely out there. Juju, a surprise, did not practice today. That's pretty big, I think, because so far it looked like Wednesday was just sort of the day off for that receiving core, and then they practiced, and it proved true again for Deontay. Deontay was a full practice today. Juju wasn't even on the field. Are you worried about his week 3 availability, or is this just extra rest for a veteran?
He's young enough where he doesn't need that veteran rest. We forget all the time. This is only his
24, season. I think.
Yeah, he's a young guy. He shouldn't need it. But with his cemented role in this offense, I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the day. Maybe he's a little banged up, so they want to give him extra rest. I'm more gonna I'm treating it just like Kittle. You watch the reports. If he misses practice again, or if he's still limited, and the coaches don't come out and say that he is just resting, then I'm worried. But if he comes back, I'm immediately off the worry train.
That's fair. For me, especially given how good this matchup potentially could be, Houston's looked pathetic to this point in the season. If Juju's not out there, I am all in on Deontay Johnson as a top 15 wide receiver this week. And given how much the Steelers have been throwing, especially if you need a wide receiver start, I'm not against fantasy managers rolling out Chase Claypool or James Washington this week as well, just trying to capitalize on the Juju targets that are going to be obviously temporarily vacated for the week. So definitely something to keep an eye on if you're looking for a spot start, because you could have an opportunity to roll either Claypool or James Washington out there. And if you are a Deontay Johnson manager, this could be a spicy week. You could be looking at some fancy totals this week. All right. Some slightly better news. Jerry Jeudy is back at practice, limited with ribs. Something to watch. I think it sounds like he's going to play this week. So take that for what you will. It's obviously Jeff Driscoll. There we go. I can talk. Jeff Driscoll behind the helm. So temper your expectations. But he was able to support Kenny Golladay pretty well last season. He's not afraid to go out there and sling the rock. Jeudy, if he plays, I think he's a solid plug and play this week over some injured options. And then this one is a big one because these guys have been very productive for fantasy owners. But Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller both surprised did not practice this week, so something to keep an eye on there. I honestly, looking at this on Thursday, I'm not really sure. I need to see what the Friday practice reports look like, because I think that this could end up being an ugly situation for fantasy managers where it's kind of the ship has sailed on waiver ads. You're already kind of up that creek without a paddle. Waller, I think, is a little bit easier to replace than Jacobs, but I'm not excited for either of them missing a practice on Thursday.
Yeah, I was. Jacobs looked like he was going to have a great matchup because the Patriots against the run have never been that great. They've also always employed the bend, don't break, so they just give up yards to the running backs in the hopes that they can beat them elsewhere.
It could be said that Bill almost wants you to run against him because it helps the game end faster, and you don't score that many points doing it. Yeah. But I'm not looking forward to them potentially being out. If Waller's out, there's no tight end that I want on the Raiders that I want to start over him. I'm not rolling out Jason Witten. If Waller's out, I'm probably looking towards, a Mo Alley Cox or a Jordan Reed if Kittle misses. One of these guys that's further down boards. That's probably still just hanging out there on your waiver wire because it looks like Jack Doyle's probably not going to play again this week. I'd even be considering O.J. Howard or Drew Sample. They both have pretty solid matchups this week. But you're not going to find another Darren Waller just hanging out there on the waiver wire in week 3. So hopefully they play. It'll be better for your week. Before we jump into the breakdown for the second half of the countdown, I just want to roll through our results last week for our starts and sits and our starts and our money picks. Last week, Frankie went 2 for 4. He picked Rodgers against Detroit, which was a pretty good start for fantasy owners, but Malcolm Brown, let us down a little bit. Same with Anthony Miller as his first money play. Noah Fant did smash last week, so you were pretty happy if you rostered him. So that brings Frankie to 3-8 on the season. I was 4 for 4 last week. Kyler and Cook both performed admirably in my starts of the week, and Jonathan Taylor and Calvin Ridley had fantastic days for DFS. If you had them in lineups, you were not upset. So I'm pretty happy with that. That brings me to 7 and 8 on the season, and then you were. Let me see here. You were Thielen. Sorry, my document is not loading. Vitale, do you have yours in front of you? My screen's not showing me what you had last week.
So for last week, I ended up going 1 for 4. A lot of the guys I was looking at, be that Thielen, Gallup, they ended up just being in good matchups. When you looked at them on paper, they looked like good matchups, but the ball just was not finding them through the air.
Yeah.
It was just a rough one for me going through. And then as far as my picks from the other one, where are they? But anyways, I ended up 1 and 4. It was a lot of guys who had.
You were Gallup, Montgomery, Thielen, and Dobbins. So Montgomery was your only hit last week. He had a great week. Thielen got the targets. The
balls weren't coming down.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins he looks lost.
Yeah, Gallup's a guy where it's a little just head scratching that he wasn't getting the targets. Like CeeDee Lamb is showing out, and I deservedly so getting targets.
Gallup's someone who I'm honestly interested in trading for right now. If I'm fantasy managers, especially if I'm needing wide receivers, because you can probably get him for pretty cheap. 2 down weeks in a row. People who drafted him are probably just about done with Gallup, especially with the rest of the offense looking pretty good. And I don't expect this to continue for Gallup. I expect Gallup to sort of reclaim his role as the strong number 2 in that offense.
Yeah, because as speaking as a Gallup owner in our primary league, he's definitely shaking my confidence. I'm scared more of CeeDee Lamb with just how much analysts are throwing the love at him.
Yep.
But I'm still holding on to a little bit of that coach speak where McCarthy was talking about him as a potential wide receiver 1 for them.
Sure.
So I think it's just one of those things where eventually he'll get open and he'll get the looks. But the upside to him is at least he has one of the best depths to target this season so far. So basically, when he comes down with the ball, it's going to be good fantasy points for your team. So I am shying away a little bit till he starts producing, but I'm not off the Gallup train.
That's fair. I guess my only real interest in him is the fact that he's so cheap. So I'm like, I think he should reclaim his role, and I think that you should really get him for cheap in leagues. But
Yeah.
I mean, I do agree with somebody, like, it is a risky play if you go to trade for him. So he's someone who I would be down to trade for. You know, if you have a panicking Gallup manager in your league, try and get him, but don't overpay for him. All right, you ready to jump into the second half of the countdown here?
Let's do it.
So we left you all off with Rams Bills last episode. And if you haven't managed to watch that one yet, definitely jump back and watch the first half. Almost all of them will help you, except for the Thursday game, which is kicking off in about 22 minutes. So, but definitely go back and give that a watch so you can catch the first half of this breakdown. We're going to lead into this one with Titans-Vikings, 49.5 point total. They're not expecting much defense to be played in this one, I guess. This is one that I'm a little scared of, because the Vikings have been bad. Like, objectively bad against just the offense. There isn't really one part of the offense they're good at stopping. I don't think that's going to continue forever. You know, they do have a lot of skill on that Vikings defense. You've mentioned that in the past. And the Titans are missing some people. You know, A.J. Brown's probably not going to play again this week. I'm not super confident with the total in this game. I'm probably picking the under on it. You know, and as far as players from the Titans that I'm starting, I mean, obviously you're starting Derrick Henry, you're starting Jonnu Smith, and I think Tannehill is still a fine streaming option. But he's a risky streaming option, in my opinion. The more I've looked at this matchup, the more I've kind of come around on the idea that this one might be a slow game. You might see a lot of Dalvin and a lot of Derrick and not a lot of either quarterback in this game.
Yeah, I am surprised at the total.
I mean, it's because the Titans have been, you know, shooting it out to this point, and the Vikings have been terrible, so they've just been, you know, chasing teams, so they've had to throw, and Kirk Cousins sucks. But
yeah, I see a world where it gets to that over, but more often than not, I feel like this is going to be a low-scoring affair, because I think the Titans are going to get up on this one and just kind of sit on the ball.
And they're two teams that want to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you get two teams that want to run the ball playing each other, typically it's a slow game.
Yeah, I'm still, for this one, as far as confidence in players, I'm still confident in Thielen just because he's getting targets. And I'm not worried about the Titans secondary that much, so I think he'll still come down with them.
Sure.
Like I said, Kirk is good enough to get the ball to him sometimes.
Yeah.
I think them being at home, I think they'll kind of figure the things out a little bit. So I think this is going to be a nice little bounce back game for Thielen. As far as the Titans side of the ball, Derrick Henry, I think you can start Cousins. I could see this one being sneaky though, because like
you'd be willing to, with how bad Cousins has looked, you'd be willing to start Cousins.
Potentially, like I said, because if this one stays shootout, I could see a world where he still gets it done for fantasy. I just think he needs to get the touchdowns, which it's a low percentage chance. But like I said, if you really need someone, Cousins is at least in a matchup where I'm not scared of the defense. He's at home, and he still has weapons. As far as, you know, the Titans side of it, this is one where I'm actually a little worried for the Titans side of the ball, just because I have that feeling where the Vikings are going to return to at least halfway their defensive prowess. Like, their skill has to play out at some point. Like, they have two, like I said, I've been talking about this the whole time. As soon as they got them, their defensive line should be playing 10 times better than this. So I could see this a world where it finally clicks, and this could be the game, because, like I said, Tennessee's a good offense. They're not a great offense. So
yeah.
I can see a path where, you know, Tannehill is going to be getting sacked a lot, or at least getting pressured a lot.
Yeah, I'm in that boat for a different reason. I just think it's going to be the Derrick Henry show this week. You know, I think that Derrick Henry is finally going to have a Derrick Henry game, and it's going to be today or Sunday. So I'm not excited for this. I'm trying to avoid passing options in this game. Hopefully you have other options if you are tied to this one. The next game on our list, a little bit lower total, 45-point over-under. Washington football team versus the Cleveland Browns. I'm kind of interested in this game. Like, it's a morbid interest. It's not like this is going to be a good game interest. Like, I'm interested in this game from the standpoint of Washington looks like they have a good front seven. Can Washington's front seven stand up to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt? I said Tyreek Hunt. That's not combining him with his old teammate. Can the Washington football team stand up to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt? Because obviously, I mean, if they were both on separate teams, they'd both be top 12 running backs. So it's like this might be the best 1-2 punch in the league. And they're going up against a pretty stout defensive front. I'm interested to see who wins in this one, because I think there's a scenario in which the Washington football team actually blows out the Browns in this one, because if they can stifle the running game, then they're making Baker throw. And I'm still not confident in Baker's ability to throw. I want to start Nick Chubb in this one just because he's Nick Chubb and he's going to get his. I'm probably starting Kareem Hunt if I have Kareem Hunt on my team. On the Cleveland side of the ball, I'm probably trying to sit everyone else. Like, I don't want to test Odell Beckham in this one. I think it's going to be a low passing volume game. I'm definitely not starting Jarvis Landry or Austin Hooper.
Yeah, this is one I'm not a fan of.
I mean, I think this is sketchy even for Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I mean, Washington's front seven has just looked amazing to this point. And I just I think it's a combination of how good that front seven has looked and how poor the passing attack for Cleveland has looked. So yeah, I'm probably in the same boat where start Chubb because one, you probably have to because you drafted him so high, and the lack of running backs out there is pretty bad. And then on top of that, he's a guy who can at least get out of this game where he'll get his in redraft. He's probably someone I'm avoiding in DFS.
Oh, for sure. If I in a mode like DFS where I have other options, I am not paying for Chubb this week.
Yeah,
I'm not paying for anyone on the Browns side of the ball really this week. On the Washington side of the ball, though, there are a lot of guys I'm interested on that front.
Mm-hmm.
I think Terry should be lining up for a decent week. He's shown that he can beat top corners, and I don't think that their passing game is as bad as we all thought it would be. It's shown we've seen by now that it looks like it's good enough to at least be able to supply Terry with consistent volume, and he's a good enough receiver where he can turn that volume into points.
Yeah.
So I'm happily rolling Terry McLaurin out there this week. I'm rolling Logan Thomas out there because the Browns aren't that good against tight ends, and there has to be someone else who catches the ball in that offense. And then I'm pretty confidently starting Antonio Gibson this week if I need a running back, and that's in both redraft and DFS because I think that he could be in a good spot to perform this week. The coaches started leaning more towards him last week. We didn't see really anything out of Peyton Barber. It was basically, if I recall the snap counts correctly, it was basically just him and J.D. McKissick.
Yeah, it was. It was what you wanted to see if you drafted Gibson to take over this role, and I do believe we're going to see an uptick. It's just what is that uptick?
Yeah.
So for me, he's more of a DFS play for me than redraft. But if for a flex play,
I say redraft because of the amount of injuries we have. You might not have he's probably one of the better bench flex plays that teams have if they have him on their roster based on where they had to draft him. 6th, 7th, 8th round.
Mm-hmm.
If you have him, he's probably one of your best flex plays this week, and you likely don't have a lot of other choices unless you just lucked out and didn't get hit with the injury bug last week. So, but my point is he's not someone I'm afraid to start in redraft or DFS.
Yeah.
So go ahead and start him with confidence. I'm just looking at this Washington team right now. There's no one really else that I'm interested in starting. And is there anyone that's drawing even a cursory glance from you, or is it just those three and move on?
Yeah, like I said, for me it's those three and move on. Because
no Gandy Golden.
No, I'm not going. I'm not going digging for Gandy.
He was so hyped coming into the after draft season. Everyone was. It seemed like everyone was on the Gandy Golden train, and just I haven't heard about him in months.
Yeah, like I said, I just don't think Haskins is skill or has shown skill enough yet to support more weapons. That's kind of how it is. He is good enough that he can get the ball to a primary target and a tight end for the security blanket. And Antonio Gibson has the talent. It was never talent with him. It was always how much are they going to use him. And I think last week they tested the waters, and it's basically you gambling. Are they full steam ahead, or are they going to just trickle carries to him?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, next game on our list here, Jets-Colts, 44-point over-under, which seems high, given how mediocre both these teams have looked. And mediocre is actually far too generous for the Jets. But the Jets, I'm just going to lead with them because they're a quick talking point. I mean, they're 11.5-point underdogs in this game. That's disgusting. There's literally no one on the Jets that I want to start. I don't care how bad my team looks. You know, I could have had Devontae Adams and Cortland Sutton as my 1 and 2. You know, out here just picking through the garbage trying to find starts, and I'd rather start. I mean, he's playing tonight, but I'd rather roll out like Laviska Shenault over like literally anyone on this team. I'm not trusting Berrios. You know, Herndon is apparently an offensive lineman now. Their running back core is trash. They're just like they're rolling out basically undrafted free agents as they're starting. Like this is a high school. This is a college team.
Yeah, like I can hate on Gase as much as I want to hate on Gase for all the fantasy weapons that he has just used his.
I mean, they're starting Chris Hogan. I didn't know Chris Hogan was still in the NFL.
Hey, Chris Hogan, he's a premier weapon, okay? But no, Gase is just, he is proving weak. Like it feels like someone bet him a lot of money to be like, how fast can you lose this job? He's like, oh boy, watch this. And he is doing his damnedest, but apparently the Jets ownership is just la 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 la.
He is sprinting towards that finish line.
Yeah, like I'm surprised. Like I feel like it's we're in la la land where the New York teams are the jokes when the Florida teams are, looking promising.
To the Giants' credit, it's not entirely the Giants' fault that they're a joke this season. They lost a lot of good skill players. You know, you lose Saquon Barkley and Sterling Shepard in a single game, you're going to look pretty trash. And I would still take almost anyone on the Giants over everyone on the Jets. I mean, I think all of the Giants, like Evan Ingram, better than Chris Herndon. Darius Slayton, better than any of their wide receivers. Golden Tate, better than any of their wide receivers. Dion Lewis is better than Frank Gore at this point, I would imagine. I'd rather have Devonta Freeman than Frank Gore. Like, the Giants are still, like, they're a team that was unfortunately just backhanded with injuries, and they are just trying to recover. The Jets are just in a free fall.
Yeah, and of course, when I'm talking New York, I'm excluding Buffalo. It's basically Canada. But
they're not New York.
Yeah. I'm talking
New York is the city. They're upstate.
Yeah, like, but when you look at it and you just talk about like Florida teams where it's a lot more of a casual fan base, like I want so many more players in Florida than I do in New York, and New York is a die-hard fan base, and they are rolling out some of the most like trash teams I've seen in my career of watching football.
Yeah, this Jets team looks like a start your everyone against them because they're just like their defense is putrid, their offense is putrid. I mean, they're starting a guy that has an AARP card at running back. Yeah, I hate them. Indianapolis Colts, though, I think there's a lot of interesting options this week, and I'm actually very interested in the Colts side of the ball. I'm probably going to watch this game because I want to see what the Colts do post Paris Campbell. Which seems weird to say because he's only a second-year player. But, he's obviously not coming back this season. So, I want to see what they do without Paris Campbell. I grabbed a lot of Michael Pittman Jr. this week. I believe they're going to buy in on that. I mean, we know what Zach Pascal is. T.Y. Hilton. I almost said Ty Hilton. I'm messing up all the names tonight.
No,
but T.Y. Hilton, like he looks old. He looks washed. Like he doesn't look like he has it anymore.
I'm actually on the opposite side of this. I know I do agree that he has looked washed, but I just feel like this feels like his coming out party. It feels like he might just have like been knocking some rust off the rotors kind of thing. I mean, his grandmother called him to say, I'm not watching the same TY that this is not my grandson playing out there.
I actually missed that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, his grandmother...
Well, now he's got to show out.
Yeah, I was going to say...
The grandma's chewing him out.
Yeah, his grandmother chewed him out, and he's like, that's my biggest supporter through my thing. He's going to show out in this game, just be like, he's going to get some grandma points for you. So, like, he's a guy I'm trading for. He's a guy I'm, like, ready to buy in, because I believe it's there. I think we just saw, like, a rusty TY with a new quarterback.
Are you here first, folks? Buy into T.Y. Hilton because grandmothers support him.
Exactly.
No, I think the biggest benefactor of this game is going to be Jonathan Taylor. You know, the guy who got almost 20 rushing attempts in the first half last week. Something tells me against this Jets team, he's going to be heavily used. I don't know what it is. It's a feeling deep in my loins that he's going to get out there early and often, and he is going to just be able to run wherever he wants. You know, I honestly don't know if the Jets are going to be starting a defense against this Colts team, or if they're just going to, kind of just take those snaps off. Like, no, you're going to score in 3 plays anyway. Just hurry it up. Let us get back on the field.
Yeah, this is going to be an ugly one. I think you say 44 is a bit high, but, like, when you look at all the other numbers...
I say 44 is high because, like, I don't see the Colts scoring 44 points by themselves. I don't know if the Jets get on the board.
Hey, I think this could be, like, 14-30 or something like that.
I honestly don't know who on the Jets would score those 14 points. You know, maybe Phillip Rivers throws a pair of picks or something and they get run back. But I don't know who he's throwing the picks to because the Jets defense sucks too. So it's an ugly situation all around. Yeah, I think it's a start your Colts. You start T.Y. Hilton, even though he's looked bad. You're obviously starting Jonathan Taylor. I'm okay with Phillip Rivers as a streaming option. I don't think he's a particularly sexy one, but if you missed out on all the better options, he's at least probably not going to burn you this week. And then I love the Colts defense. If you got the opportunity to grab them, if you listened to our defensive stash of the week, or if you tuned in on Tuesday where we told you to grab them if they hadn't been grabbed yet, they are in a smash spot this week. I don't see how Darnold is going to make any points against them, and I could easily see the Colts pressuring Darnold into, making some bad picks or, forcing some fumbles of that nature. Panthers-Chargers, another game where I'm pretty excited to watch this one, mostly because the Chargers have my beloved Joshua Kelly. I love you. I actually, in our main league, I'm starting Austin Eckler and Joshua Kelly this week against the Panthers because they're terrible against the run. Like, they are literally, bar none, the Jets are better than them. The Panthers are the worst team in football against the run. This is a match made in heaven for the Chargers running backs. They have 2 very good running backs on that team against a team that can't. They couldn't stop you at running back with your bad knees. Like,
wait, listen, I got like a half a knee.
You have a half a knee between both your legs.
Yeah, but I do agree that this is going to be. I think this is going to be quite similar to it's going to be as bad as Colts Jets, but I think we're going to see a similar situation because
I think the difference is the Panthers can keep up.
The Panthers can at least throw the ball, but I could see this Chargers defense having a good day just because they just lost their top weapon. I like DJ Moore, but DJ Moore's not like I'm scared. Like, he's a quality receiver. He's not a great receiver.
So obviously you're starting both Chargers running backs. Like, they are both top 24 plays this week. What are you doing with Chargers wide receivers? So we said in the news, Justin Herbert's starting this week. Confirmed the week 3 starter. Are you rolling out Keenan Allen with confidence? Yeah. And I expect that to be a yes, but what about Mike Williams and Hunter Henry? Because keep in mind, a lot of injuries. Let's say that you're either in the need for a start or maybe you need a flex play and you're debating between, Mike Williams or Darius Slayton or, someone in that range.
If I'm in like I said, in that range, I go Slayton. I think there's just enough wide receiver starts that you can find something like
Mike Williams and John Brown or something. Mike Williams and Henry Ruggs. Mike Williams and Deshaun Jackson. It's like because those are the decisions that fantasy managers are going to be making. So it's like Mike Williams, I think, is an interesting start now that have confirmed to have Justin Herbert under center. How high do you put him? Who are you willing to start him over?
He is definitely an interesting option with how many targets he got and how I'm not scared of Carolina, but I feel like this is going to just be I think they're just going to pummel him on the ground and call it a day. So
sure.
I think even though Mike Williams should be able to get it done, he's going to need a touchdown to pay out.
And then Hunter Henry, are you streaming over him this week if you have a better tight end option?
I think there's, like I said, I'm streaming like.
So let's go all the way down the board just to see how bad. Like, are you streaming Drew Sample over Hunter Henry?
Let me get myself over there. Over him, I'm putting Schultz over him. I'm putting
really Dalton Schultz.
I'm putting Schultz. I mean, like I said, they
so you got to have Drew Sample over him then. With how Joe Burrow has been looking to that tight end, and the fact there's no more CJ Uzama.
Yeah, I'm probably Drew Sample over him. Mo Alley Cox over him. Jordan Reed if he's the guy.
So you're really down on Hunter Henry this week then?
Yeah, like I said, I think this is going to be just a gross. Like I think this will be just an amazing game for the running backs as far as passing options. I think they don't want to they don't want to expose Herbert too early. So I think this is going to be a limited passing game. I think Keenan Allen will get enough to get his. I think this is going to be just a low target game. Like
sure.
I don't think Herbert's going to be the reason why these guys don't perform. I think it's just going to be lack of them throwing. They're just going to be running the clock out. So I think this is just going to be running backs with a sprinkling of passing.
Yeah, as someone who's been on the Joshua Kelly hype train since like early May, I've already started taking my victory lap on him. But like I think this is going to be the the photo finish for the victory lap because this is going to be a fun week for Joshua Kelly truthers. But I agree with you. I'm also I mean I've always been down on Hunter Henry. I think he's always been very overrated as a tight end prospect. I think he's been more potential than actual performance.
Yeah,
so
it was that rookie year everyone fell in love.
And then he's never been healthy, or when he has been healthy, he hasn't performed.
Yeah.
So I'm down on him. I do agree. Like I wouldn't. I don't know if I would start Dalton Schultz over him just because I believe his performance was likely a bit of a mirage. I expect a lot of that work to transfer over to Michael Gallup, but basically everyone else I'm with you on, I would start them over Hunter Henry.
Yeah, just a closing thought. Just Schultz, it gets the nod just because it's gonna be a shootout.
Sure,
mainly.
Yeah, and you could see him fall into the end zone. It could be easily a 4-touchdown game for the Cowboys. Lions Cardinals 55.5 point over under. Somehow not the highest total on the week. Like, that's massive. Massive. And you know exactly why. Because this, I mean, another game that I'm very excited to watch. Like, I'm going to be like a crack-addicted toddler just bouncing back and forth between screens at the 4 o'clock hour because this is going to be a really fun game. Stafford looks like he's finally going to have his full complement of weapons back. He's going to have Golladay. Stafford's going to be slinging. I'm not scared of starting Stafford. I think he's probably dropped in a lot of leagues, honestly. So like he's someone who if he's out there and you need a quarterback start, grab him because he could go off this week. Golladay, instant lock in my lineup. Marvin Jones, get him out there. He's at the number 2 corner now. TJ Hawkinson, sure, why not? DeAndre Swift, maybe. I mean, he still gets good target volume.
I just don't love his usage in this. Like, he's probably.
But if you need a running back start, I'm okay with him. Like, you really need a running back. Like, maybe you missed out on all of the guys on Tuesday.
I'd really have to see, but like I said, there's probably just because of how much they're using Adrian Peterson. He's a guy I'm trying. But he's
Swift has been catching the balls. That's why I'm interested in Swift because, catching the balls. So I mean, he catching some of the balls at least. But
he is still, like I said before, he is still someone I'm thinking is a trade target. But he's a trade target I want to stash on my bench. Like, I want to let him bloom.
If I really need him as a flex or a running back too this week, I'm okay rolling him out there. I'm not like super happy about it, but I think that he could get involved enough that he could get you 8 to 10 points, maybe more if he gets a touchdown, and fantasy managers could be at least fine with his performance. And then on the Cardinals side of the ball, I mean, I love Kyler. Like, I was in on him last year. He had a great rookie season, but he let me down a couple times. I got him again this year a bunch. I'm very excited to see what Kyler does against this team, because this should be a shootout. I don't think Kyler's going to have any issue running against the Lions. The Lions look like they're a very bad team, so you could see Kyler getting another 100 yards and a touchdown against this bad Lions defense. I could easily see him going for 202 through the air, maybe more. So I'm starting Kyler. I'm starting Kenyon Drake with confidence this week. I think Kenyon Drake's going to be a top 6 running back play this week. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be great. I'm rolling Christian Kirk out there if I need him. I'm probably not starting. I expect Kirk to start emerging more in that offense. We saw it last year, and we know that Larry is 800 years old. Kirk has to start taking that volume from Larry at some point. And also with a 55.5 point over-under, like, everyone's going to have to get, if they're going to hit that, everyone's going to get involved. I'd even be okay with flexing Larry this week if you really need to, just because that total is so absurd, and I wouldn't be shocked if they hit it or pass it. Like, it's unlikely that all of the Cardinals points are going to go to Drake and Hopkins. If they don't all go to Drake and Hopkins, which, like I said, there should be some trickle down there, I think you can get a startable week out of Christian Kirk, maybe Larry Fitzgerald, maybe Chase Edmonds catches one. I don't know who the other benefactors are going to be, but I'm okay rolling the dice on the tertiary players for the Cardinals, because some of them are going to have good games.
I am probably on the exact opposite of this one. I think you start Hopkins and you don't start anything else that catches the ball other than running backs for this one, just because we've seen through 2 weeks now, Kyler, he spreads the ball out, he hyper targets Hopkins, and then he sprinkles targets out where he needs to get them.
Yep.
So I mean, like, when you look at the stat lines for all these guys, like Larry, I would say Larry is probably the closest thing to a flex start for me, just because his hands are what he
gold hands.
He has golden.
He got diamond hands over there.
He has buttery soft hands that he can just catch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not worried about him. And from an athletic point, I think he can still just get you something. He might be able to get in the end zone. But Kirk, he is borderline drop for me, just because they're not using him and they're hyper. Like,
I'm holding Kirk if I can. If I need to drop him, he's a drop. I'm holding Kirk if I can, because I expect Kirk to emerge as the season goes on. Yeah. And I don't want to drop him and see him perform on someone else's team, because he is we've liked him as a very talented receiver, for a year or two now. I'm okay stashing Kirk, and I think this is one of the rare weeks where, even though Larry is still very active, I'd roll him out there if I need to start. I'd roll the dice.
Yeah. Like I said, I love this matchup for both sides. But for me, like I said, for the Arizona side of the ball, I'm hyper targeting. You hyper target the studs.
Sure.
And you are.
It's a classic start your studs.
Yeah, start your studs, and I'm low confidence on basically everyone else.
I think actually, the more I think about this one, the more I think that my favorite flex start of this one might be Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, he was one I was looking at. He could also just be a sneaky benefactor.
With the volume of plays the Cardinals run, and the how much they should be scoring in this game, it's not all going to be able to go to DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler is sort of their 1B running back, but Chase Edmonds is a very capable pass catcher. So I'm not afraid to start him in this game. I think he could be a really good flex start.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be one of those ones where there's gonna be a lot of points scored, but I think the quarterbacks are gonna be the main ones you're gonna be happy to play.
Sure.
So if I do agree,
quarterbacks and Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, quarterbacks and
because if the Lions are going off, Kenny's going off.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Denver Broncos, an ugly 43-point total. Oh my God! I'm breaking off of this one for a second just to talk about the one below it briefly, and we're gonna jump back. Dallas Cowboys, Seattle Seahawks, because my feed updates live. They're since we've been talking about the Lions and Cardinals, they're over under wind up a point. Back to the Buccaneers and Broncos. Let's get through this one quick because I really don't care about this matchup. I think it's gonna be terrible. Buccaneers. I'm starting Godwin. I'm starting Mike Evans. I'm probably trying to stream over Brady this week, honestly. I'm definitely starting there too. I'm not starting any. I was vocal about this on our waiver show. I hate their running backs. I'm benching all of them if I can this week and just letting, Bruce Arians figure out who he wants to use because I don't want to play that guessing game. So it's a stream over Brady if I can. Start Evans and Godwin, and if I need a tight end streamer, if somehow everyone else is taken, I'm okay rolling OJ Howard out.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way except for the running backs and the quarterback.
Not at all the same way then.
No, yeah, I like.
I'm kind of the same way except different in every facet.
No, like I said, I like the studs too. But as far as the running backs, I think it's as we've been talking about running backs. There's some guys I don't like. It's because I will like these guys. I'd rather gamble on them because if you hit, you're gonna really hit on them.
Sure.
So they're at least with other plays, you're like, oh, maybe he can get a touchdown. Like who's gonna get the touches, but you're not liking what the touches you're getting. I like the touches you're getting here. You just don't know who's getting those touches.
Sure.
So if you need them, if they're, I would say flex play at best. Either of these running backs, I'd say you're fine to roll them out with the amount of injuries and all that. Brady, I still like him in this one because he now has Godwin back. He has his full complement of weapons, and I am zero threatened by Denver at all. They are without Drew Lock. They're without Von Miller.
So, question for you: do you believe that Ronald Jones still has the job, or do you think it's the Lenny show now?
I think we're in a timeshare. So I think it's his job. I think he has.
Who starts the game?
Ron Jones.
Okay, so let's play this then.
Okay.
Because obviously Leonard Fournette. I'm just looking at DraftKings running back list here. Leonard Fournette's too expensive. I'm not using it this week. So if I'm using at least in DFS, if I'm using a Tampa Bay running back, I'm using Ronald Jones. Would you rather start Ronald Jones or Jerick McKinnon? Because these are decisions that fantasy owners might have to be making. Is like, are you rolling out Ronald Jones or and when I say like let's say Tampa Bay running back here, but Tampa Bay running back or Jerick McKinnon?
That's a tough one. Just because I want to, my impulse is to go with Jerick McKinnon, just because of the injuries, and then he should be the starting guy. But man, San Fran wants to find out a way to not use him. Like if they can be like, George Kittle's good enough, we're gonna use him running back.
It's just him and Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, it should be Jerick McKinnon. So I'm going to go, it should be Jerick McKinnon. So I will start Jerick McKinnon. And then when week 3 is done, I will be sad because for some reason they used anyone else.
What about Mike Davis or Ronald Jones?
I was in on the Mike Davis train until we heard this news about Curtis Samuel. It shook me just enough of a titter that...
Because Teddy Bridgewater can't support 3 wide receivers. So... Either dropping Robbie Anderson or using Curtis Samuel somewhere else.
Yeah, that and on top of that, I'm probably if I'm looking at these guys, I'm probably also in the boat of fantasy managers that just paid out for Malcolm Brown, and then he gave you nothing after the game. You just paid for him.
Yep.
Like we just got a lot of people just got burned in week 2 from some of those pickups in week 1, just from fluke stuff. So Mike Davis might be like he's an unknown enough commodity that I'll probably just go for one of the Tampa Bay running backs where I know their talent's more.
All right, 3 more quick hits here. Just give me your thoughts. Darrell Henderson or Ronald Jones, or Darrell Henderson or Tampa Bay running back.
Darrell Henderson.
Devin Singletary going against the 31st worst run defense with a banged up Zach Moss.
Devin Singletary.
Antonio Gibson. Actually, I'll do a bonus one here, and then Chase Edmonds.
I'll say Gibson and then Tampa Bay running back over Chase Edmonds.
So you're actually pretty down on the Tampa Bay running backs. Then.
I am, but like I said, if you need them, they're there.
Okay.
Like
I just wanted to establish where your position, where your line in the sand was on them, because it's easy to say I use them as a flex play, but those are some flex plays that could have been widely available on fantasy waiver wires, and could be decisions that managers might have to be making this week.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump down to the more fun matchup here. I'm tired of talking about a 43-point over-under. Cowboys Seahawks. Is there anyone in this game who isn't going to score points? Like, I guess the fans.
I feel like there's just going to be one option that just doesn't score this game.
So Michael Gallup.
Yeah, it's going to be Gallup. It's going to be CD. It's going to be I think now's the time when CD is going to let you down, just because everyone's on the hype train now.
Sure.
This is going to be the Gallup game.
Everyone's finally starting him, so CD bombs. Puts up like 2.5 points.
CD's going to brick one off his hands, and they're going to pick it for a pick six, and the coach is going to put him on the bench, and you're just going to be sitting there screaming at your TV going, why? Yeah, I feel like this is going to be the Gallup game. Like, I don't want to keep, like, I'm scared of Gallup, but at the same time, it's just, like, because of how the universe works, this is the Gallup game.
57-point over-under. That's massive. That's so many points. That's almost 30 points a team if you're splitting it right down the middle. And, honestly, the weird, like, I feel like it's not high enough. Like, I'm looking at it like, that's it? 57 points? Like, come on, we can hit 60 easy. Like, I'm hyper targeting this game in DFS. Like, I'm overweight in the field on Cowboys and Seahawks players. I don't think either team can play defense. Russell Wilson looks amazing. I mean, he has a 14% touchdown rate this season. Dak Prescott just set the NFL record for, most passing yards and rushing touchdowns in a game. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be such a fun game. And it's another 4 o'clock game.
So what you're saying is sleep in and make sure you're ready to go for 4 o'clock.
Yeah, just
get all your TVs out.
Don't bother putting on Buccaneers Broncos, but you're going to want 3 TVs for 4 o'clock so you can watch Panthers Chargers, Lions Cardinals, and Cowboys Seahawks. This game's like, I'm a start everyone in this game. I know I down-talked Dalton Schultz a little bit earlier, but like, if you need him, sure, throw him out there. Like, 57-point total, everyone's gonna get some. If they get anywhere near that, or like, God forbid, if they pass that total, this is going to be a point bonanza. Points are half off in this game.
Yeah, and just for like, if you're looking at that and you're just like, there's no way that we're overblowing this. It's like, this is Vegas using all their points makers.
Really smart people make these over-unders.
To try and set this line where it should be basically like just over or just under. And they're putting it 57.
Vegas doesn't like to lose money.
Yeah.
The really smart people are making this over-under, and they're like, oh, I don't know, like, I've got 1 million points. Yeah, this is a start. Like, I think I draw the line like Carlos Hyde. Like, I'm probably not starting Carlos Hyde this game, but like, I'm starting all of the obvious Seahawks. I'm honestly, if you really need it, okay with Carlos Hyde or David Moore. Cowboys side of the ball, we've already start literally everyone. Like, don't start Tony Pollard. He's probably not going to get involved because Zeke's going to play like 98% of the snaps. But, start Dak, start Zeke, start all 3 wide receivers, start Dalton Schultz if you need him. This game is going to be awesome.
I mean, one thing you can point out, because people use defenses, don't start these defenses.
True. We often skip past that because we do, we touch on it at the end of the show where we talk about the defenses you should be starting anyway. So we often skip past that. But yes, these defenses are trash. You will get negative points.
Yeah, like, they could still get turnovers, but they're still going negative because of the amount of points they're getting scored. Like, and
honestly, with how good the quarterbacks are, it's unlikely they're getting turnovers. All right, let's hit the last game on this slate here. Should be another fun one, a good Sunday night game. Packers-Saints, 2 NFC, I'd say, favorites to make it to at least the championship game, if not the Super Bowl. 2 quarterbacks that have very storied histories. Drew Brees is looking a little washed, but the Packers don't. I think this one could be a pretty nice little showing for Aaron Rodgers here. I mean, and especially if Devontae Adams is out, I think this could be a nice boon for anyone who picked up MVS or Allen Lazard. I'm starting all my Packers this week. I'm starting Lazard. I'm starting MVS. I'm starting Devontae Adams if he plays. I'm starting Aaron Rodgers. I'm starting Aaron Jones. Anyone I'm missing there?
No, because you don't ever start. I will never start a Green Bay tight end. I refuse to do it. I made the line in the sand. So if they go off,
Jace Sternberger.
Yeah. So same thing with everyone else. Like Jermichael Finley. All the Jimmy Graham. Like, no, I'm not starting. Like Aaron Rodgers, it's like a void in his vision. There's just a gap there.
He just doesn't see them. There's a black hole in the field just moving across. It's like
they're like, all right, here's
absence of light.
Yeah, Sternberger, here's your jersey. It's a green screen. It's just like Rodgers can only see like a camera can. It's just like, nope, there's nothing there.
Yeah, I did have kind of high hopes for Jace Sternberger. You know,
it happens every year.
I believe this might be the year. It's not.
Yeah, it's every year they go. There's so many touchdowns. One of them's got to go to the tight end, right?
I mean, to be fair, his percentage of offensive snaps is trending up. Per Pro Football Reference, he played 15% of offensive snaps in Week 1 and 22% in Week 2.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
you could tell me Jay Sternberger is going to play 100%. I still don't start him.
Yeah, he's, 100%, I'm changing my tune, but 22% is not cutting the mustard.
Yeah, 22, it's on top. Like 22 plus, he doesn't throw the ball there.
Yeah. Other side of the ball, Saints. They looked, honestly, bad against the Raiders. I mean, I don't want to go full-on Peyton Manning, wacky waving, inflatable arm noodle man, but Drew Brees might be getting there. Like, we might be. I'm just gonna come out and say it now before week 3. And my bias be known, I do love Jameis Winston. Would not shock me with how bad Drew Brees looked last week, if that's just how Drew Brees is, if Drew Brees gets benched for Jameis Winston this season.
That is a bold take, sir.
He could not move the ball down the field. Like, do you know why Alvin Kamara saw the target volume he did? Because that was the depth of target that he could reach.
Yep.
Everything beyond that, he's like, hey!
Yeah, like the one thing I want to give him in his credit, Drew Brees, that over Peyton Manning's final season was that at least he just had a hand surgery. So like maybe that's nagging a little bit, and like there's a reason he was out. So
Drew Brees looks like he is on his way out of football.
Yeah, I would say if this is his performance level, this takes them out of Super Bowl contention for me. Like, they were one of my favorites. They're out of Super Bowl contention unless this defense starts becoming a world beater out of nowhere.
Or unless Jameis Winston comes in.
No, if Jameis Winston comes in, they become they become like the Falcons to me, where it's like, ooh, fantasy points, but they're not winning.
I mean, there was that one year.
No.
Yeah, I'm starting Alvin Kamara in this. I'm starting Jared Cook. I'm starting no one else.
Yeah, I'm super. I love this. I love this Breeze for Kamara because he's just like, every play looks like this. Kamara goes out, does a chip block, and then Breeze is like, I can't throw it that far. And then Kamara just turns around and goes, can you throw it over the lineman? He's like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I'm starting 2 players in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully you're not in a spot where you have to start Traquan Smith or Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, just don't.
Try and bench them if you can. But it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a good football game. It's not going to be a good fantasy game, especially if you're rooting for a lot of the Saints. That's going to do it for our countdown. Let's run through our money picks and starts the week real fast.
You want to rattle off Frankie's real quick for the viewers?
I was just going to suggest that. You read my mind. Starting off with Frankie's picks. Frankie is recommending that you lock into your lineups Michael Gallup versus Seattle and Jonathan Taylor versus the Jets. And Frankie's money picks this week are Dalton Schultz, $4,500 on DraftKings against Seattle, and Chase Claypool versus Houston at $3,700. I'm not really opposed to either of those. I think those are both fine DraftKings plays. They're cheap. They allow you some roster flexibility, and especially if Juju misses, I like that Claypool one.
Yeah, I don't hate either of those. They're a little on the I think I would like to see him, pick somebody in the expensive spots that you think is going to pay out, because that's how you win the money. Like the flexibility lets you pick the guys that are going to win you the week. But a guy going off that was 3,400 and getting you a touchdown in 30 doesn't win you money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about yours, Vitale? What are you doing for your starts and money picks?
Well, I'll do it inverse. I'll go my money's first. So for my money picks, big one, I went for Sanders, Miles Sanders to be exact, not Emmanuel.
You do to specify.
Yeah,
especially how we just talked down on Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, Mr. Miles Sanders. I've been gushing over him since last week after he finally came back, and he gets Cincy at home. They're still banged up. They're still all banged up, so Wentz has to go somewhere, and
they're actually more banged up now. Jalen Reagor is going to miss 4 to 8 weeks with a torn UCL, as we talked about on Tuesday.
Yeah, so like I said, it's one of those. He's amazingly talented. They showed they want to use him. They've said they wanted to use him, and they get Cincy, who I'm not scared of. So I think it's just going to be like, Miles Sanders, please carry us to a victory.
Yeah. Can you carry the ball 20 times and also catch it 10 times?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I'm going a little bit more on the cheaper side. I'm actually going with Antonio Gibson for my other money play. He gives you both the roster at 4,700. I think he gives you enough roster flexibility. Plus, I think he is a gamble upside where if he takes over the job and gets 18 touches total, both on the ground and in the air, I think he could really pay out against Cleveland, because I'm not too lazy to understand. I think Baker could turn the ball over and give them a lot of short yardage.
I think he's their second most explosive offensive weapon behind Terry. So he's someone who I love, especially at his price. I agree. If Washington's going to win this one, it's going to be the backs of Terry and Gibson. Yeah,
like I said, I think it's going to be, for me, the blueprint for them to win is make Baker beat you with his arm, turn the ball over, short yardage. Dwayne Haskins, I think, is good enough to win with short yardage. So, those are my monies. Miles Sanders, Antonio Gibson. As far as my starts, I'm going with Darius Slayton against San Fran, because I think people are still respecting that San Fran defense a little bit too much. It was amazing last year. Should be amazing next year, but missing your top 2 players for the entire season and them still trying to put the pieces together and figure out what that new identity is without them, I think that Danny Dimes should be able to exploit them enough with his better weapons. And with Sterling Shepard on the IR, Slayton's the man now. Like, that was the question coming in, is who's going to be the man in this offense? It was Slayton or was Sterling? Because Golden Tate, he's the slot guy. He's not fighting for targets with Slayton. So
I did believe in Shepard too, so that's a little bit of, I'm sad about that one.
Yeah, Shepard was a guy I was in on for a little bit, but then I just looked at it like, we knew it. Shepard has been showing us exactly who he was for a long time. We just want to buy in. And then my other start is actually going to be Tom Brady, because Tom Brady is a guy you probably drafted later in drafts, and you could be waffling between him. He's going to Denver, which typically is not a great spot for Brady, but new team, he's getting all his weapons. Godwin's coming back, so he has security blankets galore now. And Denver is missing their number 1 defensive player, Von Miller, and they're also missing their quarterback. So I could see Denver just punting a crap ton and turning the ball over. So I think it's going to be short yardage. I think it's going to be a lot of time of possession for Tampa Bay. So I think Brady's going to be able to just chip this one into a good performance. So you'll notice I like to target defenses that are missing players and quarterbacks missing. Like I'm picking out the injuries for this week, basically.
Sure.
So
for me, I'm going to be doubling down on one player, so I'll get him out of the way first. If you have been listening to this show since its inception, you may have picked up on the fact that I love me some Joshua Kelly. I've been very in on him since like rookie draft season for Dynasty Leagues. I actually drafted him in our Dynasty League. I recommended fantasy owners pick him up with your last pick in fantasy drafts, because he was going to get that Melvin Gordon role, because the kid is fantastically talented. And then he showed out for the first 2 weeks. And everyone, I was still just standing there on Hampton Beach with my sandwich board, like, pick up Joshua Kelly, he's great. And you know what? If you listen to me, you're finally going to get some real, legitimate payoff this week. Because Joshua Kelly gets the Carolina Panthers, who we touched on earlier, are abysmal against the run. Not bad, abysmal. he is both my start of the week and my money pick of the week, or one of each. I am that confident in him that I am logging him in both categories because he is going to have a fantastic week. Like, if you're flexing him, you're going to be very happy you're flexing him. And if you're putting him into DraftKings lineups, I hope you win lots of money because he's probably going to be a very common player on winning lineups. He is in a excellent spot. Big fan of him. Plug him in as much as you can this week. And then my other start of the week is Cam Newton. Cam Newton might be a little bit of a confusing one for some people. You know, the Raiders on paper look very good against the quarterback. You know, they've been the sixth best quarterback so far at denying quarterbacks fantasy points. But Cam Newton isn't a traditional quarterback. He does most of his work on the ground. Cam Newton's air points are gravy. Do you know where the Raiders are against running backs? Because it's not great. They're the 29th worst defense against running backs. I think Cam Newton's going to have a fantastic performance on the ground. And if he gets 175 and a touchdown through the air on top of what I expect him to do on the ground, which is, you know, probably 80 to 102 touchdowns, I'm very happy with what I get out of Cam Newton. I think that he is a locked and loaded start of the week this week. Great streaming option. I plug him in like just outside of my top 5 QBs.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the disrespect for his arm has been up there. I mean, we just played the Seahawks, and Cam showed he can sling it. If he needs to sling it, he can sling it. And I think Bill's be able to scheme up plays, and you can utilize the fact that he runs to set up screens, play actions, and all that.
It's looked like vintage Cam.
Yeah.
So I love it. He's my other start of the week. I'm rolling him out there with confidence. And then my last money play of the week is Mr. Kenyon Drake. We talked about him in the breakdown of the Lions game. It's a very high total, and the Lions aren't particularly good at defense. That's really it for me. I think there's gonna be a lot of points scored. I think Kenyon Drake is probably their second best skill player. I think if they're going to hit or pass that total, Kenyon Drake's a big part of it. I believe they're going to. And therefore, I'm rolling out Kenyon Drake pretty heavily this week. And it's just sort of, you know, a cherry on top that he's only 6K. So, like, he's a really cheap running back on DraftKings this week. And he could go bananas. So get yourself some Kenyon Drake, get yourself some Josh Jacobs, and I hope you guys win some money. And to close out the show, we'll give you our defensive stashes of the week. We've been pretty good on these so far, actually. So maybe you want to start listening to this. A defense that a lot of people have dropped this week because they're playing the Bills, but are someone that I would definitely add. I'm actually holding through this week. Rams versus Giants is our top defensive stash of the week. They have a very favorable matchup. Rams versus Giants next week. They have the Bills this week, so they're probably on the waiver wire. They get Giants next week. Very favorable matchup. And there's a good chance they're out there. I grab them over everyone else if I can stash a defense. And then our secondary defense is going to be Arizona versus Carolina. Carolina's obviously a team missing their superb offensive weapon in Christian McCaffrey. They're a better defense than they were last year. There's a good chance people still remember last year's Arizona Cardinals where they were just putrid on defense. So they're probably out there. Stash them, play them against Carolina next week. There's a good chance they get some turnovers. That'll do it for us. Join us on Monday as we walk you through the recap for the week and go over some of our favorite waiver ads. And we hope you all have a good week 3.
Thank you for joining us.